Welcome back to the Lou Perez Podcast. My name is Lou Perez. If you want to support the show, please head over to thelouperez.locals.com and join the Lou Perez community on locals.com. And be sure to follow me on all social media at the Lou Perez. Here we go. I'm joined by my friend Dean Cameron, actor, writer, producer, and all around really nice guy. I had to get that in. That's in your rider. So Dean, I think maybe we can talk about basically how we both know each other. And I know you because I grew up watching so many of your movies in the 80s in particular. And I happened to watch an oldie but a goodie with my wife the other week, Summer School. And that was a really fun bonding experience between me and my wife, because she sees what kind of comedy basically produced her husband, and I got to see my buddy in his glory. So that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was in my first movie, and spoiled me for everything else for the next 30 years. So, but. A nice legacy.
That was your first movie that you got?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Totally spoiled. Great director, great script, big studio, great part.
Yeah. So. And it was directed by Carl Reiner. So
Carl Reiner. Yeah.
He just passed away.
He did. Yeah. As far as we know.
Right. He's playing the long con.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I know you because I found the algorithm pointed me at you on YouTube for all my right-wing nut propaganda, and you were in there, and I wrote you a fan email, and
I got when I got that email, for the first thing I was saying is like, oh my God, here's another person who's alt-right adjacent. But I read it, and I said an audible, holy shit. And I said it to my wife, and I was like, "Oh my God, Dean Cameron just emailed me. Do you know what this is?" I was super stoked about it, and I was really, I was really blown away. So
cool.
This is kind of like I don't know. Do you do like Comic Cons and stuff like that? Can I get a?
I've done some. I call them has-been autograph conventions. So I've done a few of them. As Spinal Tap said, my audience is very selective, so it's not profitable after a while because everybody who wants my autograph gets it, and then they're gone. So I probably won't do another one for a couple years.
Yeah,
but they're fun. They're great. I love meeting people and talking about movies and stuff like that. It's cool, and I get to see people I'm fans of.
Yeah,
at these things, so it's nice.
And I'm still blown away that was your first movie, because I feel like you, like the character of Chainsaw, is such a, like, I can't imagine, like, I'm trying to imagine all the guys who went in and read for that part, and you just, you were perfect for it, and it's sort of like, did you go in sort of like with like that character already created, or is it something you found with Carl Reiner?
Well, it was so well written. The part was so well written. And I also, when I read this, occasionally you'll read a script and you go, oh, this is my job, barring some divine intervention. This is mine. And that was one of those scripts. And just thought, this is mine. And it ultimately was. So one of the great audition stories or director stories. So when I read with Carl Reiner twice or three times, and the second time, the last time I was reading with Dave's with the other guys, and he gave me this really bad direction. I don't remember what it was, but it was some line reading or something, and I thought that's really bad. And I looked at him and I thought, well, it's Carl Reiner. He's a comedy genius and a legend, so I'll try it. So I did it. And he goes, yeah, that was, never mind that. Don't do that. Do what you're doing. And so got the gig. And so about 2 weeks into the shoot, we're waiting for whatever. And he says, remember your audition? And I gave you that really, really horrible direction. Yeah, I do remember that. And he goes, I was just seeing if you'd listen to me because I could tell you're a son of a bitch. So it's good. So it's a good lesson. So if a director gives you bad direction in an audition, give it a shot because they might be testing you.
Yeah, just go with it. He wants a soldier. Carl Reiner wants a comedy soldier right there. I was thinking, the character, the name Chainsaw, you fully embrace it. Like this is your character. And I was in a comedy duo called Greg and Lou, and the biggest hit that you were Lou. I wanted to play off type and play Greg, but it just never got around to it.
He was so good as Greg. So.
Yeah. So our biggest video that we ever had was Wolverine's Claws Suck, and it has altogether over 20 million views or something like that. It's just insane. It's been around for 11 years, and I often think hey, you know what? If I go my whole life and I'm just known as the dude in that video, I am very happy with that. There's so many.
That's nice.
Yeah, it's to actually have a legacy, especially of a character that you really love, and to be remembered for it. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, well, there's it's taken me a while to embrace that, and because when you're in it. And you did something, and I knew it was, a big milestone, but I wanted to keep sort of moving up. And so for a while, you think, okay, I don't want to just be known for that. And you try to do other stuff that may be more visible or, I don't know, whatever. But so in the last 5 or 10 years, I've really gone, okay, yeah, I did that and I'm proud of it and people love it and they still love it. And there were a lot of movies made back then that people don't watch anymore. And this is one that still gives people pleasure. So good for them. They have great taste.
Yeah.
So it was sort of reconciling with that it's a journey.
Yeah. And also, there's that added element to it of, that was, how many years ago? You were a young guy. So every time that character comes up, there's sort of look where I am now. Look where where I was then.
A few years ago, I forgot the name of the company. It's a sort of a hipster movie place in Texas, and they have some other places.
Alamo Draft House.
Alamo Draft House, right? They did in San Francisco. They did a Dean Cameron retrospective, and they played Summer School, Ski School, and Rockula, and I went up and watched it on a big screen, and the place was packed. It was amazing. And watching those movies, what's interesting is when I watch the movie, I think about what was going on that day when we were shooting the scene. They're like photo albums of my past. You're going, oh, that's the day we had the mariachi band for lunch, or that's the day that this person, we played Simon Says, and that's the day that he was late. And it's a really interesting thing the memory is less about the movie and more about my youth or what was going on that time. It's a weird thing.
Yeah, no, that's super interesting. And also, how great is it to see firsthand, wow, I really had a big impact in the lives of people. I feel like, did you grow up in Hollywood? Was that?
No, I grew up in Oklahoma. My dad had tried to be an actor. He lived in Santa Barbara, so I'd visit him every summer and every Christmas. And I started doing it. They had this great summer theater program, and I started doing plays with musicals, but with Eric Stoltz and Anthony Edwards and a couple other people who are still working, Kathleen Wilhoit. So we were all doing plays when we were 13, 14 years old. And Eric and Tony and this other guy, Mike Sherritt, they were coming down to LA and doing commercials and guest star on TV. And I thought, well, they can do that. I can do that. So that's how I sort of made my way from once I got out of high school. I immediately drove to LA and moved here. Yeah, when I was 17.
I would imagine, like if someone growing up in Hollywood, and we have different ideas of what success are. Success, and
right.
for me, it would be a success to get a 5-liner under in a movie. Like I'd be like, this would be fantastic. I'd be making the leap from doing online videos to being like a real picture, something like that. So I guess that's something that I guess the ego needs to sort of contest with and get over.
Yeah, I mean, now it's sort of opposite. Now,
right.
Richard Horvitz, who was in summer school also, and I have this YouTube thing we do, and we have virtually no one watching it, but we've been doing it. We've done 150 something episodes. And so we're trying to get like YouTube famous, and movies and TV are like, we've done that. So who cares? And he does all this animation stuff. So it's weird how things have flipped, and there used to be like real import and satisfaction in getting a job in a movie. And now it's, at my age, chasing the carrot to try to be a movie star, number one on the call sheet, is gone. Now I just like working, and it's fun, and it pays into my pension and all that stuff. But those jobs aren't as fulfilling or interesting. The ones I'm getting. So it's just something to do. As far as acting goes. But this other thing, these other things are, I think people can make real careers and do great things like you've been doing. So
thank you. Yeah, I've been a member of SAG for like 5 years or something like that. And I don't know.
Sorry.
Yeah, I can't count. Like I definitely haven't booked anything in like 4 years, or like 4 or 5 years, as long as I've been working with We the Internet. When I was working with We the Internet, I wasn't booking anything, but yet I was still paying into this union, and I'm wondering, am I going to get anything out of this at some point down the line?
Yeah, that's the eternal question about SAG. So
well,
they're not my favorite, but it's a necessary. I don't know if it's an evil, but it's a necessary thing.
Right. I was just thinking about the other day. Growing up in the 80s and 90s, just how much of my brain, how much of my memory is taken up by like really bad movies. So there's one, I know you were in ski school, but there was a movie that I remember way too much of called Ski Patrol, which I could probably go down and tell you every single thing that happens in that movie and give you lines and all that. But there's all this important information that will never be in my mind because that's taking up a space there.
Yeah. Well, first, coincidentally, Ski School or Ski Patrol is one of the first movies I refused to audition for. So, or go in and meet on. So, and then ironically, the Ski School universe, there was I think a New Yorker cartoon about these two women talking, and like you get like information, like in the cartoon, it was Brad and Jen broke up. And so in the brain, there goes all of Dickens. There's no more room for that. So, pretty great.
I remember you did an episode of It's Always Sunny.
Yeah.
That was an homage to you, and also of that era.
Genre,
yeah. Can you maybe talk? I think for people who don't, I just saw I went to a cafe the other day, and on the wall was if you were born in 1999, you were allowed to drink now. And I was like, oh my God, people are being born in 1999. That's insane. So it's a completely different world. At least it seems like a different cinematic universe overall. Like if you were to describe, sort of the 80s comedies, especially like teen movies and stuff, I mean, how would you do that?
I would say they were written. It was a genre that was created by frustrated dudes who knew nothing about women, and they were writing, and it was this self-perpetuating thing that happened. So they would write these female characters that were fantasies or amalgamations of what they think a woman should be. And then the actresses in in this universe then started behaving that way, and it was this horrible Ouroboros that sort of that created this genre of movie, and that I was never really thrilled with. But when in Rome, that's what you do. So that's what I think about the 80s. And I have a lot of opinions about how the big agencies sort of screwed up movies, and you can see that now with superhero movies and like bullshit stuff like that.
Yeah,
So
I wonder if that 80s genre like sort of culminated with Weird Science, where the guys literally make a woman. So
right.
It's
right.
sort of
or the rape in
Revenge of the Nerds.
Revenge of the Nerds. Yeah. Like that. I remember even watching that, reading the script, going, "This seems weird and wrong," and seeing the movie and thinking, "This is weird and really wrong."
I imagine like being in the head, and I don't know who wrote it, but he's like, "No, man, it's oral sex. He's going down on her, man. Like that's so rare anyway. So this is a way to get around. This is their loophole."
And they did a beautiful job of spoofing that in Always Sunny when what words can I say?
Anything. Yeah.
So when I go, I'm going to jam my dick through that hole and say special delivery, and they're like, "You can't do that. That's awful." And so because it was an homage to Porky's,
right? And
just horrible. Yeah. But that's what was going on. And again, I think frustrated nerds who didn't get laid in high school suddenly were in power and writing movies.
Yeah, and I think in the 90s it became the movie became a young man who, shocker, hasn't been laid yet. What? Right. You haven't lost your virginity? We have to help you lose your virginity. Right. I'm just, how many movies with that premise? And I was just always thinking that I've had guy friends my whole life, and at no point were my guy friends like, "We're going to help you get laid."
Exactly.
If anything, like they're the biggest cock blocks. It's like, I've been talking to this girl and you really ruin it because you're either shit faced and I'm going to have to take you home. Or you're like, "Oh, maybe she digs me more than you."
Yeah, totally. And then it got very talky and self-indulgent. And I actually co-wrote a movie that got made that was very talky and self-indulgent. And then I think there was a really good period. I mean, the 90s, there were some really interesting things going on, and also the 2000s, and probably now, but I don't know. I don't care anymore. The other thing that was happening was politics started getting, as an actor, you had to have a political point of view, and that became part of this requirement of being in the public eye of I have this power, and so now I'm going to tell you how to vote and how to think and what to do. And I fell into that for a while and started this group called Young Artists United, and the intentions were honorable, which was that as young actors, we would present ideas and present all the sides to people and let them decide. But it ended up becoming this other thing where we're presenting one side and this is how it should go. And I read this book called Amusing Ourselves to Death. And the thesis of that was famous people are ruining America by talking about politics because they're inherently stupid and don't know what they're talking about. And I took a hard look at myself. I was like, yeah, I'm not very smart and I have no business talking about this. So I'm going to back out. And I left the group. And then the more I sort of deep dove into my beliefs, things started to change. And now I just don't talk to people.
I wonder, was it always so cringy with actors speaking out? Because now, in particular, there was that video that went out where I take responsibility, and it was a bunch of Hollywood actors taking responsibility for the police shootings of black men. And it was just like, well, like, we know you literally don't mean you're taking responsibility, because you'd be, I guess, turning yourself into the police. But
I actually shot that guy.
Yeah. It was my knee on this poor man's neck, and all that. I remember that one. And then, of course, you always have the ones that are just vote, get out there and vote. And it's like, well, we know who you want everyone to vote for,
And the singing, the singing thing.
The John Lennon.
Imagine. That was all. Yeah. I was on in 80. When I was shooting Summer School, actually, there was a proposition, California Prop 61, I think, which was the Clean Water Act, which was, we should have clean water.
Sounds great.
Yeah. That's a difficult position to get behind.
How about water? Can you guys have water first, like in California?
Exactly.
Get some of that.
So they and Jane Fonda was behind it, and like big heavy hitters, and they invited me to go on this bus trip, and they were sort of recreating the old train things of the 40s, the Bond movements in the World War II, to get the public aware of this. So we took a bus from L.A. up to San Francisco, and we made these stops, and people would speak. And they'd given us stacks and stacks of literature about the problems with the water in California and this and that. And I read all of it, and we really knew what was going on. And we'd stop in these places, and it was just basically Beatles concert to see your favorites. I mean, it was Michael Fox and Rob Lowe and Jane Fonda and Peter Fonda and people from Hill Street Blues. Like, it was a big deal. And me, who had done a couple TV series, and no one knew who I was. So these people were speaking and just saying stuff like, basically, water's good, dirty water's bad, thank you very much, good night. And no nuance, nothing interesting, nothing about the literature. And that was one of the things that really got me thinking, we shouldn't be doing this. We really shouldn't be doing this. And so the result of that is now you go to a restaurant or anywhere, there's a sticker that says, there are chemicals here that may contain pollutants or carcinogens. That's it. That's all it is. Like, some business has to buy this sticker and put it in their stupid window. Like, that's what we did.
Yeah.
Rocking.
A lot of people have asked me, like, hey, Lou, if you could, do X, Y, or Z, what would you do to, change the world or something like that. And for one, I just can't imagine having the power to do something that big, but also I can't imagine, like, sort of being that kind of mega star, that, like, someone that you described, like Jane Fonda, and not getting drunk on my own celebrity and thinking that, what, maybe I do just go out there and say, clean water is good. And there it is. Like, it's sort of a magic spell.
Right. Yeah. It's a weird thing. It's not weird. It seems obvious, actually. When you're, number 1 through 5 on the call sheet, everyone laughs at your jokes. Everyone agrees with what you say. Everyone thinks you're awesome. And if you're doing that a lot, I think you just expect it. One of the things, my career took a huge nosedive in the 90s. And I had a really hard time talking to girls because my game was just showing up and being the guy who was in those movies and TV shows. And that was my, way in to talk to people, talk to girls and meet them. So they knew who I was. So when they didn't, it was a weird thing. So that you just become, when you're famous or nearly famous or sort of a little bit in the public eye, you just assume the world is a certain way. People are a little bit nicer to you at restaurants. People are nicer to you at the grocery stores. It's just a weird world. And it's a harsh wake up call when that stuff goes away. Like, oh, people are really mean to each other, and this is a harsh place. It's weird. It's a weird thing. So having all that, going, yeah, well, I know what I'm talking about because everyone says where I work, all these people think I'm great and smart and funny and wise.
Mm-hmm. I remember I saw John Hamm in a bar in L.A. once, and I was totally ready to be really nice to him. He's a very attractive man, so he has that going for him too. Beautiful man. I think what's her name? Someone described him as astronaut handsome.
It's true.
He is that. I forget who it was who
totally
called him. So you described your decline in the business. Was it? What do you think it was? Do you think sort of, because it seems like your mindset is already changing at this point as far as the way you're looking at movies and celebrity and politics and all that stuff.
Yeah. Well, I became sort of disenfranchised with what was going on. Also, David Lee Roth said a great thing.
Mosey Bob.
Exactly. He said, I don't get all the girls I want. I get all the girls who want me. And that's how it is in showbiz. Like you don't get all the jobs you want. They pick you. And no matter what you think, no matter what level you're at, you're there with your hat in your hand. And that realization is difficult. I also was losing my hair. And that was, I know there were big jobs that went away because of that. And just, if I completely knew what happened, it wouldn't have happened. So I don't know. Things change.
I went to school with a really great young actor, and he was a spectacular actor, but he was going bald really early. Like he was, 19, 20 years old, like, losing it. And I hadn't seen him for a little while, and maybe like a year or something like that. And then I saw him, and he had a hairpiece, and he was like a 22, 23-year-old kid with a hairpiece, and it was tough to look at, for a number of things. It was the reality of like a hairpiece. I mean, how good can they actually look? But then also like, man, this really talented guy is getting looked over because of this reality that, he's balding. It really sucked.
Yeah. And that makes sense. I there wasn't Sean Connery, I guess, was sort of a famous bald actor at the time. And Bruce Willis was still trying to
save it.
Hang on to his hair, and Woody Harrelson. So those guys really hadn't. Ed Harris, I guess, was one, but he's really good. I'm not as good as Ed Harris. So, and he's astronaut handsome. So I don't know. It's a weird thing, and it's a visual medium first. So you want to see pretty people and dudes with nice hair, like John Hamm.
My son, a couple of months ago, he's 7 months now. I think when he was around 4 or 5 months, I was calling him Ed Harris because he had that Ed Harris scalp going, intense scalp, man.
They do that, yeah. My son had that too.
So you took a break from Hollywood, and how did you pivot? What'd you do during that time?
I worked in the mid to late 90s. Someone said you should learn HTML.
Whatever that is.
Yeah, whatever that is. So I got a book, Teach Yourself HTML in 24 hours. It was not straight, which I thought you did one 24-hour period. So I learned HTML. A friend of mine who I'd met through Penn Jillette was starting this web. It was the first social media, web social media thing called Tight Circle. And he said, I need someone to do front end for me. And like, I don't know what front end. He goes, that's HTML. It's like, oh, I can sort of write some HTML. So we developed this site called Tight Circle, which was this unthreaded conversation in email. We ended up selling to an unnamed company in Mountain View, California. But because of that, I learned what programming was, and because he was doing all the back end. And so I ended up getting a job this is back in the Wild West days of the internet at a game company called iWin, making a lot of money, not knowing what I was doing. And from there, so for the next 10 years, off and on, I worked as a front end programmer. Also found this nice voiceover career in the 2000s that was nice. So because I had gotten incredibly in debt in the 90s, from like 95 to 2000. And so through the 2000s, I was able to get myself out of debt. I found I met my wife. I mean, she wasn't my wife when I met her, but I met,
yeah. An arranged marriage in California.
Yes. My parents in New Delhi set us up. And so I took and it was nice in a way because I realized I could support myself and function without this showbiz thing completely. I still worked a little bit. People would offer me stuff for occasionally I'd get an audition for something, but I didn't have an agent or anything. And then the internet business changed and became super corporate and no fun and just like anything else. And I thought, well, if I'm going to deal with jerks all the time, what I should just go back into showbiz because that's sort of interesting and fun for me. And front end programming had changed, and there's a lot of JavaScript, and I'm not good at that. And I was working with these 20-year-old guys who'd grown up programming. And anyway, so and along that, during that timeline, I played music, and I have a karaoke band, and we had played at a agent's birthday party, and he ended up signing me. And while I was still working at Ticketmaster, I started getting gigs, a lot of them. And realized that the people who had grown up watching me were now running showbiz. So when I turned 50, it's a long story, but anyway, so I'm back full time doing the showbiz thing, and it's okay.
Yeah, I have to say, when it comes to your voice hasn't changed, at least in my ear. Like, you still sound like the young guy, which is strange. Because a lot of people, that's just not the case. It just doesn't. They don't keep it up.
Yeah. It's funny. I get recognized now a lot for my voice. People know me. Like, why do I know you? Because they recognize the voice, then sort of the eyebrows, and then I just did these movies. Like, oh yeah, it's cool.
Nice.
Correct.
Were you there at Ticketmaster during the whole beef they were having with Pearl Jam?
No, I was there afterwards.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about your ability to pivot to a completely different career, and one of the real fears that I have is that I've basically gone all in on this comedy thing, in particular, comedy tinged with a lot of quote unquote controversial opinions,
with a distinct point of view.
Yeah. Thank you. A distinct point of view where it's sort of like, man, have I fucked myself?
Right.
Like if it, it comes to a point where nobody is interested in, I don't know, me creating stuff for them. It's like, man, it's going to be, can I turn and, I don't know, like learn welding or become a plumber or something like that in 2 years? Is there an HTML book that I should be reading right now?
Welding is good. Welding is a good trade. It's always necessary. I disagree. I think whatever just happened with whatever, you're going to do great because you're super talented and really funny and really have interesting, fascinating takes on things that people don't think of. So it's just,
I appreciate that. Thank you. That's it. I haven't been recording this. I just wanted you to say that, Dean. This whole thing was just it was just a fish. I was just fishing for
compliments. I just need compliments right now. That's all I need.
Well, it's I made a video a couple of years ago where it was the joke was that there was an app called a hate fuck app. So it's like the first dating app where instead of trying to find love, it's like, no, find people who hate each other politically and just have them get together and, and do their thing. And when I was looking to cast it, I told, Greg at the time who directed it, I said, hey, what about, so-and-so? And he said, oh, really? Do you want to work with so-and-so? Didn't you guys just have a fight on Twitter? And I had to like pause, and I was like, oh my God, it made me really gross, the idea that I wouldn't work with this guy because we had a quote unquote fight on Twitter about the definition of socialism. And wow. Yeah, and it wasn't like Greg was saying, don't work with him. It was just, these are the times that we live in where, one argument on Twitter can sort of derail an entire relationship or, erase an entire, history that you have with somebody. And I basically made it clear that, I don't want to work in that world, and I don't want to live in that world where I just cut people off because of, bullshit like that. And this was an example. This guy in particular, I'd known him for maybe 10 years and had nothing but good stuff to say about him. Every interaction's been wonderful. It was just a stupid little argument about the definition of a word. And part of me, I fear that, that the same, the same thing won't be offered me in the future in a way where it's like
that generosity.
Yeah. And we do like morning walks, a few days a week with me and my son, and he's just learning English. He's a new kid. So I try to still practice imparting what I think is wisdom, even though he's a young kid. So the other day, after I got my coffee, we were walking. I was pushing him in the stroller, and I said to him, never hold a door open for somebody, thinking that if I do this, someone will hold a door open for me in the future. Just do it, because when you start getting into sort of the scheming things, or not even scheming, but sort of like, I'm gonna trick my karma in a way, if I'm good to, this amount of people, they're going to, come back in the future. And so I'm still, I'm trying to live that way and still navigate, this entertainment business and all that in the same way.
Yeah. Well, I think if you're operating at a high level of your potential, you can't go wrong. I know that in my life, the times that I've been just fulfilling my objectives, the things I want to do, all that other stuff seems to, you look around and you go, oh, this is going well now. This is good. I'm to keep doing this. I then just go, oh, I'm going to take a nap, but that's my own character flaw. But I think so. I think you'll be fine. You'll be fine, Lou. You're doing great. Doing great.
And so I'm a new father. You're a father. You've been a father for like almost 11 years.
11 years, as far as I know.
As far as you know. And how's that been? Just as another transition, it's another career move. So
yeah, it's been a big career move. What was one of the reasons I started back doing showbiz again, because as I was programming, he was young. He was 3 or 4. And I was coming home bummed every night, sleeping all weekend, depressed, and missing him. And that I want to be present for this guy and do that, impart whatever wisdom or whatever I have, ruin his mind with my crazy thoughts. But at least I want to be there for that. So that's been great. I never wanted to have kids. I never wanted to get married. I'm married. I have a kid. It's the best. And I wish I'd started earlier because, by the time he gets out of high school, I'll be senile, I think. So miss it again.
Hey, Dad, can I borrow the car? It's like, you don't have to ask him. He has no idea where the car is.
Exactly.
Just take it.
Just want the soup now. So, but it's great. I love it. And we're very lucky. He's a great, great, great kid.
Yeah.
And the one drawback is that he asks, he's a contrarian like his dad. So I'm going to go, you know what? Harass everyone else, but just listen to me.
Mm-hmm.
just quit asking me questions. Just do as I say. It's a tough thing, but.
And what's it like, being a sort of an older father, obviously if you have a kid, there's going to be a difference in the generation, but like I'm 38, but my oldest brother is 50. He's going to be 51. And I always find myself, I identify more with that generation, the Generation X, I guess, more than anybody, more than any other generation. And it's sort of like stuff happening today, whether it's in, politics or entertainment. I'm like, what? Like, what's wrong with you kids, man? I don't get it.
Well, it's interesting because him and all of his friends are way into 80s stuff. They love the 80s. They love 80s music. And I want him to not like stuff I like, but he loves Rush. He loves the Rush band. He loves the Rush. That's his favorite band. And like, okay, cool, man. Okay, but there's 21 Pilots or whoever else is out there. And like, yeah, they're good, but I really like Rush. So, but his friends, they love 80s movies. They love 80s TV shows. So, okay, good, fine.
Are they walking around they're doing like the denim jackets with patches on them?
They cut the sweatshirt and they wear the sweatshirt and no.
Yeah.
Well, they're fortunately no.
Yeah.
But
what has made it, what from the 80s has made it all the way up to 2020 that like young kids are liking?
Ghostbusters.
Okay.
All the music,
mm-hmm.
the bands, either the alternative bands like the Replacements or whatever, or Motley Crue or whatever, all that music. It's they love it.
Yeah.
Or this self-selecting sample that I'm around does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not so much the crack epidemic and the AIDS. It's like, Dad, we got to talk about it.
That confusion about AIDS seemed awesome. Tell me about it,
Dad. When they were calling it a gay cancer, what was that about? Like, it's like, oh,
well, it's funny because I had written a fan letter to Michael Malice also, and I ended up having lunch with him a couple of years ago, and his first question, he's like, "So what was the 80s like?" Like, I don't know. I was just living, just trying to work as an actor. There's nothing. I don't know. Just it's how it was.
Yeah, I was fortunate. I got to go on a little mini tour with Michael Malice and be on his and be on his show. Yeah, he's doing really, really great work. And what I've been enjoying, I think most about him is sort of his pushing of, I guess, what they call the white pill. Yeah.
I don't know the white pill.
So as far as I know, so you have the red pill, which I think a lot of people have heard about. People have been red pilled, which I guess is sort of they see the truth of the powers that be, the cathedral, I guess, and they can sort of see through it. The black pill is basically people who've taken the black pill. They're like, there's no hope. Right. We're going to lose. It's done. It's over with. Right. And the white pill is no. There's hope. We're going to win. Or if we're not going to win, the fight is worth fighting, and keep it up and all that. So I like positivity, but I like positivity when it's actually grounded in fact.
By someone who's brilliant like him. That's cool. Yeah, I think I consider myself black pilled now. So, but I appreciate that there is white pilling going on. So I'm go for him. So I hold a secret hope that he's right.
Yeah, I
think he is. Because I think we're always, every generation thinks that they've had it it's the worst right now, and that it was better in the past, and that's never true.
Yeah,
if you look at history, it's just never true. So
I had a fan write to me and ask if I was hopeful for the future, and I actually it was one of those things where I didn't take it lightly that he had asked me that. I was like, wow, am I hopeful for the future? And ultimately what I said was, if you don't have hope, you need to create your own hope. And it's like, I have no choice in the matter. I have a little one. I need to, I can't, as comfortable as my couch is, I can't just spend my days there saying, oh man, all is lost.
Yeah. I mean, especially with the kid, you can't just give up and have them. Oh, look at that.
They're going in the back. They're going in the background.
I see you back there. Yeah, especially with a kid, you have to keep moving because they can't see you.
Yeah.
Too often lay in bed with the covers pulled over your head.
So your son, he's 11. We've talked in the past, kind of like gone back and forth about, what education is like now. Because I'm in New York. We're looking to leave New York. We're looking to leave, but we're looking to leave. We're going to go to Jersey, which I think might be a little better. And so the town that we're looking at is a little better than where we are in New York. And one of the concerns that I have about just sort of education in general of my son is, on the one hand, he's at the moment blonde hair and blue eyed, right? So what I fear is that he's going to get into an educational system that describes him as an oppressor, right. Someone with white privilege and an original sin that he could never get over, that he could never be washed clean of. Then on the other,
a racist perception of him.
Yeah, exactly. And then on the other hand, his name is Andres Luis Perez, right? So then he has this other element of where, well, no, you're a victim and you're oppressed. Right. So it's these two, identity markers are going to be sort of, going at each other. And more than anything, I don't want him to have to deal with any of that shit.
Yeah.
But it seems like that's the way it's going.
Yeah, it's interesting. I grew up. My mother was a freedom rider, and was put in jail in Mississippi for sitting at a counter with black people, and did it. Like was there, and I was raised with the idea that race didn't matter, and you treat people equally, and everybody gets the same shot, should get the same shot at stuff, and you don't judge them based on their skin color. And that's all changing now. And it's and not just skin color, but your gender, your age. And I'm trying to navigate that with my son. And the thing I finally came upon was that the most important minority is the individual, and that you try not to belong to a group that other people put you in. Put yourself in your own group if you want, but remember that this country was actually formed, I think, to protect the individual, which is that one person. That's what's important. And he's getting that. And there's stuff at his school now that is very disturbing. There's this anti-racist stuff that's going on that I don't understand, and maybe because I'm too old and too white or whatever, but it seems wrong and counterintuitive. And I liken it to what happened right after 9/11 with the Patriot Act, that we implemented all these things as a reaction to this thing that happened without really thinking about it. And so I think there might be an argument about how minorities are treated by the cops. Maybe not. There's certainly a discussion about that. But be that as it may, putting in policies or teaching stuff in schools about that, I think maybe we should just take a little time and let the dust settle before we start teaching our kids how to be anti-racist, which I don't even understand the concept of that.
Yeah, on a surface level, the name sounds that sounds good, yeah. But definitely tread lightly and be wary of really nice titles.
I'm in the good person party. Yeah, and it's all good people.
I was just about to say that. Yeah, at what point are the Republicans or Democrats just going to change the name to Good Guys?
Exactly.
That's it.
Exactly.
And it's lot of the stuff that I've been pointing out or making fun of, I guess that's how I push back against stuff that doesn't make sense. I mock it. I wonder, sort of where the chips are going to fall, because I see friends of mine who are kind of putting stuff out there where I'm like, when did you guys start with this stuff? Like, when did you guys start? Like, you guys had years of, you guys had so many opportunities over the years to help out, say voices of color, if you will. But you just started now. What's that about? What's going on here?
Right. And what even can you do?
Yeah.
I don't know. My brain just locks up when I think of this stuff. It's I call it a Gilligan moment. Remember the show Gilligan's Island?
Yeah.
Okay. So the skipper and the professor would argue, and Gilligan would sit in the middle of them and go, "You're right, skipper. You're right, professor. You're right, skipper. You're right, professor." And then the skipper would hit him on the head with his hat. And that's how I feel about this race stuff. It's like, well, yeah, but I didn't do it. And so I lock up.
Yeah. I feel like
shut down.
So much of discussions are now about, how do we describe this individual? All these different identity markers, rather than what is it that this individual is actually saying or doing.
It's what I was saying. Is you, instead of describing the individual, you describe him you put him in a group, which seems completely antithetical to being an American.
Mm-hmm.
Don't automatically. You don't put someone in a group. You put yourself in a group. Anyway, I interrupted you. Sorry.
No, it's that's okay. Probably better to be interrupted, because my mind is still like sort of swirling with this stuff. But one of the things that I started seeing, I guess, a couple of years ago, I went to NYU, and I'm on the alumni mailing list, and at some point they just started sending around like stuff about Latinx alumni. And I was like, what the fuck is Latinx? What is this about? And apparently I'm not alone, because like something like 98% of self-described Hispanics or Latinos, they don't identify with this Latinx shit. But yet that's still being pushed. It's still being pushed upon people. Jeremy McClellan had a really funny joke on Twitter where he said Donald Trump got the Latino vote and Joe Biden got the Latinx vote.
That's great. Yeah.
Basically how it.
That's really funny. I pulled myself off of Twitter about a month ago. People send me links and I'll read stuff, but I don't check. I took it off my phone. I don't check it anymore. Once they did something, they censored someone or something. And I just went, I can't, this is pointless. And I don't really do politics or anything on there at all. I was just posting the joke videos, but I don't do that anymore. But but Twitter's great and horrible.
Yeah.
And it will ruin your life.
Yeah. And they really put themselves in this awkward position of being arbiters of what's true and what's not true, because ultimately, like if you're relying on an algorithm, you're going to ding things that should otherwise have been, even by your own rules, should be allowed to go. But then when that happens, people are going to shout conspiracy, because, how can you not?
Right. And what is very strange to me, so like, for example, on Amazon, there are books they don't sell. I can still buy Mein Kampf, right, on Amazon. And that's the source material for being a Nazi. And it's available. And it should be available, and you should be able to read it and go, well, there's an idea here that might be okay, but then this is no good. And just seeing what was going on and hearing that stuff. And it's those companies that are deciding what's good to see and not good to see, or true or false. I don't think that's their job. And then the libertarian in me says, well, it's their company, they can do what the hell they want. And that's when I go, well, they can do what they want. I don't have to be a part of it anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot of times, sort of the libertarian position, I don't think a lot of people understand it necessarily, where it's like, no, like you could, yes, they're a private company. They can do what they want, but I really wish that they wouldn't do what they're doing.
I can still I can have an opinion about how they do business. That's fine. And it's funny because I have people on the left going, well, it's a private company. They can do what they want. And I go, oh, cool. You're a libertarian now. Awesome.
Yeah.
No,
Well, it's funny how those those divisions break down when it's a pet project of them, or something that they're into. So even the right, it's like, coming after Twitter, it's like, well, okay, well, so what you're saying is bake the cake. Is that what you guys are saying?
Yeah, I mean, Parler is no better. Parler is the same preaching. I see you back there.
He sees you.
There you go. I see. He sees you.
This is a very wide lens, Michelle.
Then I'll just walk by.
Yeah, you can just walk by.
It's fine. There. Yes, embrace it. There should just be a social media app called Preaching to the Choir. That's what we want.
Yeah. Would you be able to develop that with HTML or?
No, there's too much. I during the lockdown, I thought, you know what? I'll go back and I'll reteach myself to program. And it's so different now. And I also get like, it's some 22-year-old who knows all of this. And so I gave up on that.
Yeah.
No fun.
Before we go, why don't we talk a little bit about some kind of joke? You tell us more about that.
Okay, so my friend Richard Horvitz, who I think he's best known, he was in summer school. He was the geek in summer school, but he has an amazing animation career. He's the voice of Invader Zim and a bunch of just great stuff. A couple of years ago, I had this idea. I said, let's take classic jokes and make narrative short films about them. So, the priest, a rabbi, and an atheist walk into the bar, and it comes from that joke. A priest, rabbi, and atheist walk into a bar, and the bartender says, "What is this? Some kind of joke?" And we did a couple of those, and they're fine, but it's a pain in the butt to shoot stuff, as you know.
Oh yeah.
And diminishing returns for us. So when the pandemic hit, people were doing all the Zoom stuff, and I had this idea just for one time, this one joke. And so we did it and enjoyed it. And so every day now, every weekday, we'll take a joke, and we've cast ourselves as brothers, Fredo and Michael from The Godfather.
Mm-hmm.
And we work jokes out so that we just do these jokes, and we don't tell the joke, but we sort of inhabit them and try to make them a narrative. And we've done 155 episodes now, because it was 14 days to flatten the curve, so I thought it would be 2 weeks. So 8 months later, we're still doing them, and it's a fun thing and silly. And we've got 100 of subscribers on YouTube, and over 1,000 of views. It's amazing. So the money's rolling in.
Are you guys able to monetize yet?
No.
Yeah, something like 4,000 hours or something like that.
Is that it?
Yeah.
They're so short. They're usually the longest one has been 2.5 minutes. But we have like friends like Craig Bierko and Sam Levine do a couple episodes, and Stuart Fratkin, who I did some movies with and TV shows with. It's just a fun thing that we do every day, and it's I'm learning. I've been trying to embrace this idea of doing things for the sake of doing them, without expecting any reward or gain or any outcome. And this has been a great lesson in that for both of us. We just do it, and we make each other laugh, and it's funny and fun for us, and that's it, and it's done. So it's nice. So, but I think it's worth watching, and it takes a minute and a half to watch. So.
Right.
And we'll do some weird conceptual stuff with edits, and I'll edit some stuff in and throw in some weird stuff occasionally. So,
well, where are you guys getting the jokes? Are they from sort of old joke books?
We look on the internet, like there are all these joke sites, and we'll adapt them. Sometimes we'll write them up, and sometimes we just have a list of them. Go, well, let's try. What if I said this and you said this, and we do them. It's just two old dudes having fun.
Oh, that's great. I've had Greg, who you've met, has been a longtime friend. We've been friends for close to like 20 years, and whenever we're together, there's going to be laughs, there's going to be jokes, and all that. The one thing that I wish that we had gotten to a point where we could just kind of be in the moment without talking about, oh, what if we did this project, or what if we did this, or talk, where we, even to this day, we're still both sort of still reaching for something bigger than we have. So we're still reaching for more success or success, just to begin with. And it's like, man, it would be great if we could just sort of be at some point.
Yeah, I think that's the eternal goal and question and struggle, but you always want to be striving for more, but being able to appreciate what you have in the moment and go, well, I'm going for that, but right now I've got food, I've got my family, I've got my home. Aces. Yeah. That's tough. It's tough, especially, in showbiz, because there's this carrot and there's this carrot you're dangling and you're chasing this carrot your whole life. We're talking about moving, and it's terrifying to me because I've been in this chasing the carrot business since 1980 really. And, like, well, what will I do? And I think, well, I'm doing all my auditions from home now. So I can do that. I could do that in Texas. I could do that, God forbid, in New Jersey, anywhere. So we'll see what happens. And she's an editor. She's got her thing there.
Yeah, I see that rig. Wow.
Yeah. She's supposed to edit on this new show and they keep pushing it back. She was supposed to start in October, but they sent this so we can pawn this if it comes to worse. And I'm on hold for 2 jobs and they keep pushing the schedule back, and it just like, can you just it's crazy.
I think the just one example of the closest Greg and I have been to a moment of zen was at my bachelor party. We went to Miami, and we rented one of those sort of poolside, not a bungalow, but what do they call it?
Cabana.
A cabana, yeah. So it was,
with a boy named Quan.
So there's like 9 guys, and it's one of those. It was one of those things where you had to spend a certain amount of money, like thousands of dollars. Like you were already paid thousands of dollars, and the waitress would keep coming by, like, yeah, you have another $1,000 to spend. So it was just drinking and drinking and drinking, and I was downing. I guess, mojitos or margaritas and feeling fine. I was feeling fine. And then
you're drinking responsibly.
Yeah. So responsibly. And then cut to, I guess at some point it's nighttime. I'm on the beach, face forward in the sand, barfing my brains out.
As you do.
Yeah. And then apparently there were a couple of women on the beach. One of them was speaking French to me. She didn't speak English. She was trying to speak French to see if I was okay. And I was speaking back to her in broken Spanish. And who was there to protect me and to save me but Greg. So Greg took his drunk, about to be married friend back to the hotel room and actually stayed there and sort of kept watch, right? And he had pushed me over onto my stomach, so if anything, I wouldn't.
You wouldn't John Bonham it.
Yeah, exactly. And apparently, we found out later. Yeah, this girl was asking about Greg. She was wondering where he was, and he's like, "What? Are you kidding me?" So going back to what I said earlier about me not being friends, not trying to get each other laid. I was definitely a cockblock. My drunk, soon to be married ass was a cockblock. But for that moment, we weren't talking about any projects. We weren't talking about showbiz or anything like that. So Might have to get back to that. Might have to get back to that place at some point.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. There's one other thing that I want to pimp, which is I corresponded with a Nigerian scammer for initially a year. And then a couple of years later, the same guy I corresponded with for another 6 months. Ended up getting a check from him for $3.50. And I turned it into a 2-person show that we toured around the world. I had it shot several times and it never came out well. And a couple of years ago, we shot it. It's almost done. I'm about to release it.
Oh, dude, that's awesome, man.
Yeah, it's a pretty funny show. It could look better, but people have been like, we want to see a video of this. We want to see a video. So that'll be out, I'm hoping, by Christmas.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's a Nigerian scam.
Well, hopefully this will be out by Christmas. Oh, there we go.
From the Just for Laughs Festival.
Nice. Well, Dean, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Like I said before, receiving that email from you really blew me away, and I really appreciate your friendship over this year of us knowing each other, and I look forward to working with you in some capacity, especially once all this craziness is over.
Yes, so. Exactly. Well, it's great. I'm just happy to know you, and thanks for having me on your show.